There were negotiations on a peace deal in Ukraine have started between the US and Russia and Saudi Arabia, and Ukraine was not invited. So these are the people that negotiated. Of course, Marco Rubio, Mr. Multipolar World Order, Mike Waltz, Steve Witkoff, who actually hung out with Putin quite a bit, Sergei Lavrov, of course, Yuri Ushakov, and Kirill Dmitriev. Now, here is Witkoff actually talking about how he hung out with Putin.
And it was a great trip. I spent, a lot of time with President Putin.
Oh, I bet you did.
Developing a friendship, a relationship with him.
Friendship. And he's talking here with Jared Kushner, of course, who is also friends with Roman Abramovich and Lev Leviev, and his wife, Trump's daughter, is Ivanka, of course, is actually really good friends with Roman Abramovich's ex-wife. Well, now ex-wife. And his brother actually went on a date with Roman Abramovich's ex-wife when they were still married, which was really weird. In short, Trump has offered Putin Ukrainian territory, no NATO membership for Ukraine, no US soldiers in Ukraine, withdrawal of US soldiers from Europe, and sanctions relief, which they're already working on, actually. Whereas Trump gets back nothing, part of the deal. Yeah, that's how you do it, guys. Ukraine may be Russian someday, Trump said. Lovely. So someone here says Russia does not want peace, it wants Ukraine to surrender its sovereignty and ability to defend itself. That's not peace. I mean, you always need to wonder when they say peace, whose peace exactly? Right, that's always the golden question. So here he said that Russia could destroy Kyiv very quickly if they wanted to. Like in 2 weeks, is that what you're saying? Not exactly what happened, did it?
Most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site. So many of the cities.
Yeah, and that's all Zelensky's fault, right?
They haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, when they want a seat at the table, you could say the people have to...
There's a lot of anti-Zelensky rhetoric now coming out from him, from Elon Musk, and everyone, in the MAGA movement, the right-wing movement, etc. They're all jumping on the train. Now, I don't really like Zelensky either. I don't trust this guy for a second. But the problem here again is the Ukrainians are not fighting for Zelensky. They're fighting for Ukraine, for their families, for their country, and, by extension for Europe in the end. So, conflating Ukraine with Zelensky is a big mistake. And people just keep on doing it.
Yeah, fighting for actual blood and soil.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, it's been a long time since we've had an election? That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also.
Yeah, I know they're trying to push for an election in Ukraine to get Zelensky unseated. I mean, what is that going to do exactly? Again, the Ukrainians are not fighting for Zelensky. And it's only going to create more confusion, more chaos, which is really not something they can use right now.
I think that they want to get Putin's guy in there.
Yeah, they want to get another Yanukovych in there, yeah. So he also said here, he talks about Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. So I said they want to stop the savage barbarianism. Who's putting whose severed heads on spikes again? I'm pretty sure that's the Russians doing to the Ukrainians. Now, this is a censored version, of course, but it's pretty barbaric if you ask me. So here's another one where he was asked, how would you guard against Russia installing a puppet government in Ukraine? You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on. In what way? They never tell you this. By not surrendering? Is that it? I mean, if the Ukrainians wanted to surrender themselves, they would have done so already. They would have stopped fighting, but they won't.
How would you counter the perception, because Russia's pushing for this, obviously, they don't really hold true elections, that would be a capitulation of some sort. How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States.
Right, it should have never even happened. And how could they have stopped it exactly?
Hmm.
Do you think that Russia wouldn't have thought of any other bullshit excuse to invade? A lot of them, I mean, all these reasons that they give are nonsense in the first place. And, you know, they would have found another lie as a precursor to go in anyway. I mean, that's always how it was going to be. How the hell were they supposed to stop this?
Yeah, exactly. That seems to be the elephant in the room that they seem to just jump right over. It's that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, but none of these guys, Trump, JD Vance, Elon Musk, none of them talk about this whatsoever. All the blame is being put on, well, Zelensky and by extension, Ukraine. Now, again, I don't like Zelensky in particular either, but that's not really the issue here. You know, again, it's a mistake to conflate it with the country itself.
Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine, and it was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in, don't go in, don't go in.
Well, he did now, so what are you going to do about it? I mean, you talk all tough, but where is the action exactly? Like, what are you going to do about it?
And he understood that.
You're gonna blow those freaking domes off of his head? Hit him in the middle of freaking Moscow? I'm not exactly seeing it.
He understood it.
No, he's going to remove troops from Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that will show him. You better not hurt Ukraine, guys. It would have never happened if I were president, man. You wouldn't have done a thing. Are you kidding me? Just like you're doing now.
But I'm only interested, I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III.
All right. And that is what you're supposed to do, right? Stop World War III. That's what everyone was talking about. So someone here says, regardless of what you think of the Russia-Ukraine war, it's utterly absurd to say Ukraine started it. Because Trump said Ukraine should have never started war with Russia. Unfortunately, the right is so steeped in current thing contrarianism, yep, and 90 IQ Alex Jones conspiratordism that half of them believe it. Yes, they do. You know, someone says, what is going on? Trump just keeps giving Putin gifts, including one he didn't even ask for. I cannot understand this negotiation strategy, because it's not. So here, European officials believe Trump is likely to agree to withdraw US troops from the Baltics, and perhaps further west, leaving the EU vulnerable to a Russian army that NATO governments warn is preparing for a larger conflict beyond Ukraine. You don't say. Someone says Trump is part of the mob. Yes, he is. So here is Marco Rubio again, Mr. Multipolar World Order. The West will have to lift sanctions against the Russian Federation in the event of a settlement of the war in Ukraine. There it is. That's exactly what they promised, and they'll do it. And here he is. So people actually seem quite surprised by this. So I actually posted this underneath a video of his. He says, Rubio has been completely flipped on Russia. So I said, never trust anyone who advocates for a multipolar world order. It really is that simple. So now he says, lol, Rubio is now spouting Dugin's multipolarity third world scam. How did the Ruskies get to him? I mean, they probably have for quite a while. So Lulik Paz says, it's the entire Trump admin. It's full of Eurasianists. Yeah. Vance, RFK, Tulsi, Sachs, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. Not to mention how guys like Tucker, who has Trump's ear. This guy says so many ziggers. Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere.
Yep.
Fortunately, though, while Trump officially aligns the US with Russia, Americans' view of the Russian Federation hits an all-time low, and it just keeps on going down. So at least that is positive. Now, something interesting about this negotiation. There was actually a guy present whose name is Dmitry Rybolovlev, who was the guy who Trump sold his mansion to in 2008 for 3 times the value at $95 million. In effect, bailing Trump out of looming bankruptcy. Now, this isn't the first time, Wilbur Ross actually bailed him out for $3 billion, I believe, when he was still working for Rothschild Inc. And this week, a former KGB agent Elner Musayev, said that in 87 he worked in the 6th Department of the KGB of the USSR in Moscow. The most important area of work of the 6th Department was the acquisition of spies and sources of information from among businessmen and capitalist countries. It was in that year that our department recruited a 40-year-old businessman from the USA, Donald Trump, nicknamed Krasnov. Now, of course, this could be a lie, but I mean, look at all he's doing. Look at all the people he's letting into the government. I mean, everything that they have, or that the US government had, to counter foreign infiltration, like the GEC, all have been abolished.
Yeah, the red flags are there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here was Yuri Shvets who actually said the same thing. So this guy actually graduated from the KGB-controlled Patrice Lumumba People's Friendship University in Moscow, where, for example, Mahmoud Abbas and Ali Khomeini graduated as well, according to Russia Today, that is. And this guy said the same thing. He was a key source for the 2021 book American Compromat by Craig Unger, which details claims that Donald Trump is a Soviet and later Russian asset. And here's someone who is summarizing an article about this. The source of the publication is former KGB agent Yuri Shvets. In 1977, Trump married Czech model Ivana Zelnikova and became the target of Soviet and Czechoslovak intelligence services. In 1980, Trump opened his first hotel, the Grand Hyatt New York, and met Soviet emigre Semyon Kislin, who was allegedly an undercover agent. In 1987, Trump and his wife visited Moscow and Leningrad, where KGB agents convinced him to go into politics. The KGB collected a lot of information about Trump's personality, well, that's not hard to do, and found that he was extremely vulnerable intellectually and psychologically and prone to flattery. You don't say. After that, Trump looked for opportunities to put himself forward for the Republican presidential nomination. Trump was an ideal target in many ways. His vanity and narcissism made him an excellent choice for recruitment. You know, all these things sound very plausible to me. The same year, he began publishing political manifestos in the American press in the form of advertisements calling for stopping defense payments to countries that could defend themselves. Does it remind you of anything? Yes, it certainly does. I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric that you hear from a lot of these, tenant media people and stuff all the time. Interestingly, another former KGB agent had previously written about Trump's recruitment by the KGB in 1987. Yep, and that was this guy, Oleg Kalugin. He said also the same thing. Or at least, he said he could be a KGB FSB asset since his 1987 visit to Moscow. The operation to lure Trump had begun with an overture in March 1986 by Soviet ambassador to the UN, Yuri Debinin. In The Art of the Deal, Trump brags about how they talked about his proposal to build a hotel in Moscow across from the Kremlin, in partnership with the Soviet government. Vitaly Churkin was instrumental in setting up the deal with intourist Viktor Suvorov. Now, if anyone likes to read more about this topic, read his books. Very good stuff. Alleges that the Soviet authorities often used intourist prostitutes as bait to develop compromat, particularly of a sexual nature. Well, I mean, if Trump has any weakness, it would be women, wouldn't it?
Yep.
The New York Times reported that while Trump was in Moscow in July 1987, he met Mikhail Gorbachev. Kalugin says, "I would not be surprised if the Russians have, and Trump knows about them, files on him during his trip to Russia and his involvement with meeting young ladies that were controlled by Soviet intelligence." Well, I mean, he's also good friends with Epstein, wasn't he? And here's another connection, which is Felix Sater. We've talked about this guy multiple times before. "Our boy can be president of the United States and we can engineer it. I'll get Putin's entire team to buy it. I'll lead the whole process," which is an excerpt from an email from Felix Sater to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's lawyer, in 2015.
Wow.
And he was the head of the Bayrock Group, who actually helped him, build the Soho Hotel with ties to the Russian mafia. Oh yeah, I mean, he has ties with Mogilevich even, who is the biggest crime boss. And here again, right, Trump-Russia was a hoax, they say. I mean, we did a whole, if you look on my X profile, you can find like a 20-minute clip of us going through all of that, because there is so much. Like, to just say, oh, it's a hoax, that is just way too easily.
Dismissive.
It's such a cope. Yeah, I mean, why don't you actually look into this? Because there is a lot there. Just search Trump Russia Symes, then go look at the Center for National Interest and who was on their board during 2016 and see what you think is going on. So he's talking about Dimitri Symes here. Former 2016 Trump campaign advisor is charged over his work for sanctioned Russian TV. Well, this is Dimitri Symes. Dimitri Symes is actually on this geopolitics show, New Rules Geopolitics with Alexander Dugin, all the time. Both of them are recurring guests. And of course, when it comes to the Mueller report, he says the same thing as I always say as well. Mueller and the Congress found nothing on Trump-Russia collusion. So he says, did you even look at the Mueller report? No one has. Let alone the SSCI Volume 5 Trump-Russia Counterintelligence Report. All they said in the Mueller report was that they couldn't prove conspiracy beyond a criminal reasonable doubt. Yep. Only in terms of intent by a then-sitting US president to have colluded directly representatives to illegally attack the 2016 election. They additionally documented 10 instances of direct obstruction of that same investigation by Trump, etc., that could be prosecuted if he weren't a sitting POTUS. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, people always say, oh, there was no collusion. And then they say, like, oh yeah, the Mueller report admits this. Yeah, they say that there wasn't sufficient evidence to actually go to trial to prosecute them for conspiracy or for collusion. But that doesn't mean that there was no interference. There absolutely was. And Mueller himself has said this as well. And of course, there's Rudy Giuliani here. His trips were paid for by Dimitro Firtash. Firtash is also a friend of Lev Parnas, who is friends with Pam Bondi. And Dimitro Firtash was also a guy who worked directly with Putin, he said, and also with Mogilevich once again. Now, there was also this. President Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, was accused in a 20-page letter to the FEC of working with Russian intelligence services in 2018. Now, again, here it goes back to a lot of people's names who are mentioned in the Mueller report, and Jared Kushner is absolutely one of them. It's very well documented that he's good friends with Roman Abramovich and Lev Leviev, who are also the biggest donors of Chabad Lubavitch worldwide, right? They are Russian-Israeli oligarchs. Roger Stone, of course. I mean, Michael Flynn, who was at a dining table with Putin, and Jill Stein, that David Duke also promoted to become president because she was good for white people, even though she has this whole black liberation kind of thing going on, right? She wants like black reparations and defund the police. Yeah, very good for white people, David Duke. And here is Paul Manafort, Felix Sater again, right? And Wilbur Ross. Yep. And Wilbur Ross used to work for Rothschild when he bailed out Donald Trump for multiple billions. And of course, Rothschild is, there are all these fake headlines of Putin has banned Rothschild and his New World Order banking cartel family from entering Russian territory. This is completely fake. You can never find any actual sources of this. So I replied with, if Putin banned Rothschild, then why is Nathaniel Rothschild, 5th Baron Rothschild, the current Baron of the Rothschild family, quote-unquote, very good friends with Rabbi Lazar, the chief Chabad rabbi of Russia and Putin's rabbi, quote-unquote? Why is Rothschild an advisor to Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska? And why is Russian-Israeli oligarch Roman Abramovich, quote-unquote, said to be among his close contacts, who is one of Putin's, quote-unquote, closest confidants and Chabad's biggest patron worldwide? How does that work exactly? So here is Nathaniel Rothschild, head of the Rothschild family, next to the chief Chabad rabbi of Russia. And here he is with Oleg Deripaska, once again. And of course, here's Putin with Chabad. And Chabad always says like, oh yeah, we have no ADL because we are the ADL. They have a lot of power for sure. But yeah, since we've been over this so many times, I mean, you can go look back. There's plenty on this. Here are some reactions from Ukrainians on the matter. He says, I was electrocuted, beaten, stabbed in the leg, and starved after being captured while defending my home and family in Mariupol. We held back the Putin invasion for several weeks while Russia slaughtered 25,000, predominantly Russian-speaking Ukrainians, including women and children. Trump is mad or owned. Because Trump here said Russia fought for that land in Ukraine and lost a lot of soldiers doing it, so Russia should keep it. What a lame excuse. I mean, Ukrainians fought for that land and lost a lot of soldiers doing it, so maybe Ukraine should keep it, huh?
I'm sure they probably lost a lot of innocent civilians as well.
Absolutely.
Do you see any future in which Ukraine returns to its pre-2014 borders?
Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot of land and they fought for that land and they lost a lot of soldiers. But it would just seem to me, and I'm not making an opinion on it, but I've read a lot on it, and a lot of people think that that's unlikely.
You've read a lot on it? Really? And here are also US military volunteers in Ukraine who say fuck Trump and his deal. Telegraph interviewed Americans fighting in Ukraine. They say Trump's peace terms isn't peace, it's a surrender, a gift to Putin. Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what it is. Veterans call president a coward who won't stand up to Putin. So here is all this anti-Zelensky rhetoric coming out. Trump now says that Zelensky has a 4% approval rating, which is really not true. And there should be elections.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, why
do you think that is? They're heavily under attack. Do you think they care about elections right now? I think they have a war to win.
Say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating, and where a country has been blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying
down to 4%. Yeah, okay. So here this guy says, why are people shocked about pure Russian propaganda about 4% approval rating of Zelensky? And Ukraine started the war and didn't want to negotiate for peace from Trump's mouth when his ears owned by fully pro-Putin Gabbard, Musk, and Carlson. Wake up, people. It's no surprise that Trump will start blaming Ukraine for biolabs. Oh man, that's something that Tulsi Gabbard and Carlson always do, and Musk as well, actually, yeah. Organ sales and other crazy stuff on Russian TV. Give him some time. I mean, that would not surprise me whatsoever. So now he also calls Zelensky a dictator without elections and claiming to be successfully negotiating an end to the war. So here he's completely shitting on Zelensky again. Think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won. That is not true. That never had to start. Well, again, who started it? It's not Ukraine. Mm-hmm. But a war that he, without the US and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe. Not true. And Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. How about you get back the fact that Europe will not be overrun by Russia and China and Iran, etc., and North Korea? The list goes on. So that eventually you don't have to fight an even bigger enemy.
Yep.
Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us? For now, there comes a point where it's going to come to your borders too, guys. We have a big, beautiful ocean of separation. Yeah, as if ships aren't a thing. Planes, helicopters. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls. That's just not true. And I don't think Ukrainians even want an election right now. And the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections, Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, yeah, by basically having Ukrainians die for nothing in the end. Biden never tried, Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. This reminds me of that Spanish influencer that went to the EU, right, and made all these videos about how the EU just kept the war going, and it's so sad, and yeah, it is sad. But how about you arm Ukraine to the teeth, and you actually help them to win the war? That's the only way. There is nothing else that Ukrainians will accept, that they shouldn't accept. They are going to win this war eventually. Even though it's extremely brutal, yes. But it's not like the Ukrainians asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I love Ukraine. No, you don't. But Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered and millions have unnecessarily died. And so it continues. So Navrazov here says Trump is not giving too much to the Russians in pursuit of peace. Rather, he is giving the Russians what he was going to give them anyway, but needed an excuse for doing so. Pursuit of peace is that excuse. So one to order says, I hope you are incorrect. He says, so do I, of course. I've been hoping I'm incorrect for the better part of 50 years. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we predicted, by the way, which is, I always said as well, I really hope we're wrong about this.
Mm-hmm.
But, about creating a schism between Europe and the US and completely throwing Ukraine under the bus. And, not to mention his kicking out the illegals and stuff numbers are way below Obama's, which is absolutely embarrassing. You had one job, man. One job. And you're failing at that too. But of course, Boris Johnson here has a pretty interesting response. So this guy says, I swear, bro, Trump is just playing 5D chess all this time, bro. It's all part of a plan. Trust me, bro. He actually said all the stupid stuff to help against Russia. Please, bro. So here's Boris Johnson, who says, when are we Europeans going to stop being scandalized by Trump and start helping him to end this war? Well, to be fair, a lot of European countries are already trying to help to end this war by trying to help Ukraine win the war rather than surrender. That's the difference here. Of course, Ukraine didn't start the war. You might as well say that America attacked Japan at Pearl Harbor. Of course, a country undergoing a violent invasion should not be staging elections. There was no general election in the UK from 35 to 45. Of course, Zelensky's ratings are not 4%. They're actually about the same as Trump's. Trump's statements are not intended to be historically accurate, but to shock Europeans into action. Yeah, guys. He's just playing you like a fiddle, 5D chess. So, of course, Alex Jones is very happy about all this. He said, well, Trump just called Zelensky a dictator with a 4% approval rating. Yeah, which is nonsense. So here was another funny one. Someone says the GOP Trump admin deceiving the Russians by repeating talking points is not 4-dimensional chess, it's just chess. So Last Intel says it's not 4D chess, it's just chess. Copium is a hell of a drug. Yes, it is. And here again, Trump's concessions to Putin are weak and useless. Ukraine started the war is a Putinist code for America started the war. Trump is, the deep state, right? Victoria Nuland. Trump is either the most epic retard of the entire galaxy for missing out on these implications or compromised. Or maybe it's wholesome 4D, Chesserino. And Elon Musk is doing the same thing. I mean, look at this. He did this while kids are dying in trenches on the war front. So Pan-European Movement says taking such low IQ cheap shots at Zelensky should be preserved for groypers, not people at the highest echelons of power of a once great Western nation. But here we are, this is the retarded timeline we ended up in. Yep. And here again, they once again refuse to answer the question.
Who does he think is more responsible for the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Putin or Zelensky?
Well, look, his goal, Peter, is to bring this war to an end, period. And there has been ongoing fighting.
Like every week I have to say this, answer the question, man. Like last week it was the same thing with Hackseth, also did not answer any of people's questions. None of them.
On both sides, it is World War I style trench warfare. His frustration with President Zelensky is that you've heard is multifold. One, there needs to be a deep appreciation for what the American people, what the American taxpayer, what President Trump did in his first term, and what we've done since. So
keep in mind, they always like to throw this out that America is just sending money. Which isn't true. They're actually sending weapons, old weapons, and they are creating tons of new jobs for Americans to restock the weapons supply for America themselves. So you guys will have super top grade weapons, all the old weaponry goes to Ukraine, and then they use it to blow up a bunch of communist assholes. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So some of the rhetoric coming out of Kyiv, frankly, and insults to President Trump were unacceptable.
Zero answers as usual. Now, here is a claim that Zelensky has an approval rate of 57% are from Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, which received US aid funding for its polling. It is run by a very patriotic Ukrainian named Anton Ruretsky. It is unlikely the polling is credible. Unlikely doesn't mean it's not credible, guys. But now, of course, Elon Musk says, unfortunately, community notes is increasingly being gained by governments and legacy media working to fix this. I mean, the whole point of community notes is that the community can interact with posts. But now you're going to change it in such a way that it always lines up with your talking points. Is that free speech, Elon Musk? Here he says again, either Zelensky holds an election to prove that he represents the will of the people or he is a dictator. Are you going to force Putin to hold an election? Do you know how long he's been in power? He only had a short break where Medvedev took over, who is even a crazier guy. Feels like a line has been crossed here. This can no longer be written off as simply the unhinged ramblings of an eccentric billionaire. This is outright malicious. Musk is now part of the US government and he's actively undermining a friendly nation fighting an existential war. Isn't that funny, huh? They're attacking friendly nations all the time. Like, they're only focused on Europe, no one else. And it's also interesting that they talk about globalists, but now the only globalists are left, really, is basically Europe, right? That's now the target.
This government has been, for the past, 40, maybe 50 years, creating enemies for us.
Yeah.
And now it seems like that's what they're doing with Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as you could see by that graph earlier, the Americans actually want to support Europe. And I've said this a million times, but I would do this. I would be just as vocal about this if this was about Alaska or Texas, And one of our, let's say, Ursula von der Leyen, right, the supposed leader of the EU, who I don't exactly like either, but if she would throw the US under the bus like this, knowing that, hey, Russia is not only going to take over a nation of our people, right, that our people built, it's also going to be eventually being such a strong force and an enemy of Europe as well, that we are just completely doomed. I mean, there is really no good argument to be made to, just let that happen. Mm-hmm. And here someone says, fixed. Right here, Putin cannot claim to represent the will of the people of Russia unless he restores freedom of the press and stops stealing elections. Yep. Here, Ukraine must hold elections. Zelensky is a dictator. And Putin and Russia? Nope, of course not. So now Trump Musk admin will cut military aid, Intel access, and Starlink on Ukraine. Now this apparently is not true, while lifting sanctions on Russia in an attempt to remove Zelensky, according to The Economist. So Ludwig Pass says, why not just sell arms to Russia as well? Yeah, I mean, might as well at this point. But it is true with the Starlink thing. I see why people are kind of, skeptical about this, because Musk actually offered to give the Ukrainians internet access through Starlink pretty early on. Mm-hmm. But that also means that he now controls their internet. So he can also turn it off at any point, which is really shady if you ask me. Mm-hmm. And now this guy says, well, every right-wing account begins to parrot the exact same line when Trump tweets something, slaves. Here, Zelensky is a profoundly evil man. He has slaughtered and maimed hundreds of thousands of his countrymen for nothing. Ukraine absolutely provoked this war by refusing to disavow membership in NATO. Ah, there it is again. And by allowing itself to be used as a puppet state of the global left. Oh yes, the woke globalists, Soros deep state, Charlie Kirk, of course. Trump knows the truth about Zelensky. He's a puppet of the CIA who marched his own people into a needless slaughter. You guys are so spineless, man. I've said this many times about Charlie Kirk, but he does this all the time. Just like with TikTok, remember? Trump was always like, oh, we need to ban TikTok. And then he actually reversed the TikTok ban. Yep. And then Charlie Kirk was celebrating it, even though he as well was saying, yeah, let's ban TikTok when Trump was promoting that.
Yeah, he's a goofball.
Yeah. And here's another one. Zelensky will be remembered as the Jewish butcher of Ukrainians. So not the guy who intentionally set up the invasion for a decade and actually killed the Ukrainians with the bombs and bullets of the military under his command in his illegal and nationally genocidal invasion, based on the KGB FSB lies of denazify, demilitarize, and denatoify. Like, who are the real globalists here? Like, who is the one throwing out the term we need to denazify, right? Because the Ukrainian people are clearly nationalists, and they hate it, don't they?
I'm pretty sure Putin also stated that he wanted to get the nationalism out of the Ukrainian people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And erase their identity.
Yep. That's why they always say, like, Ukraine doesn't exist as a country. Ukrainian identity is not real, right? They always say these things. They even say that the Ukrainian language isn't real. But yeah, here is, of course, Alexander Dugin. Today's Ukrainians are a race of degenerates that crawled up from the sewage. Genocide is in order. Lovely. Alex Jones also had Ukraine war expert Daniel Estulin on, who said that the dictator Zelensky's days are numbered because the globalists know they have lost and want to tie up loose ends. So someone actually called him out for being a communist, and he said, I'm not a communist, I'm a Stalinist. Man, this guy says, let's not confuse the communists with the Stalinists now, guys. Big difference. Yeah, huge difference. I mean, look at this. Amit Sharma says here, when the US and Trump will stop the funding, Zelensky's show is over. No more dancing for donations, just a cold reality of managing without the handouts. So this guy says, why are guys who shit in the streets and mass rape women every day complaining about fake dance videos? I mean, this is a deepfake that has already been widely debunked. The original is from a TikTok video by a Russian dancer. Wow, that's ironic. Vusal Mektiev. I mean, look at this idiotic video. You can even see that it's fake. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And now even Ashley St. Clair, who has now a child of Elon Musk since a few months ago, also jumps on the train. Can you believe the nerve of this gold digger? I mean, he's the gold digger? Got impregnated by Elon Musk again? And now his former partner, Grimes, who's also Jewish, by the way, just like Ashley St. Clair, pleads with him on Twitter to stop ignoring her about their child's medical crisis. Our child will suffer lifelong impairment if he doesn't respond ASAP. Look at that. Is there going to be another child that's going to be a victim of the woke virus, right? Just like his son who became a tranny, who he completely neglected. But no, guys, it's all the fault of the woke virus, not because I neglected my child and was never there for him. So here he says, what are Ukrainians dying for? What exactly are they dying for?
Go on. Yeah. And imagine if that was your son, your father, what are they dying for? What exactly are they dying for? That line has the line of engagement has barely moved for 2 years. There's a whole bunch of people dead in trenches for what? And I'll tell you what for what. It's like for the biggest graft machine that I've ever seen in my life. That's for what. It's unreal. Like, go on. Yeah.
Is that so? Maybe they're fighting.
I wonder if he'd be asking that same question if Russia invaded the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I mean, at this point, where if I see where Musk's allegiances lie, I don't think he would probably make up some bullshit excuse to justify that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what are they dying for? Perhaps they have seen all their brothers die in this war to protect territory that they are now therefore not willing to surrender and are actually willing to die for to protect as well. So Ukrainian Anna says, for love, right? Ask any Ukrainian soldier on the front and they will answer, for my wife and children who I love, for my mother, father, sister, friends, for my country and my people who I love, to defend them, to keep them from the horrors Russian occupation brings, for the future free of oppression, subjugation, mistreatment, poverty, and abuse. I mean, the Ukrainians were part of the Soviet Union. They know very well what happened to them. Their parents have told them all the stories, and now they're fighting against exactly that. Now, he also called out Zelensky for murdering Gonzalo Lira. And of course, Alex Jones, as always, jumped on the bandwagon here. Sources RT, by the way, as usual. Let's see what he says here.
Elon Musk just called out the NATO globalist deep state. That
the NATO globalist deep state satanic left democratic swamp, right?
Tortured and killed an American citizen and journalist, Gonzalo Lira. Lira
tortured and killed, huh? Really?
Begged for the State Department to get him out of the country and to help him because the Ukrainians said, we're going to kill you.
Oh, they said that? Really?
And they put him in prison and beat him to death and then bragged about it.
Source, RT, of course. I cannot accept the way my son has died, says his father, who of course takes his side because it's his son, and his son was always complaining about Ukraine. He was tortured, extorted, incommunicado for 8 months and 11 days, and the US Embassy did nothing to help my son.
And then said Alex Jones, Jack Posobiec.
Someone says Lira was a grifter scamming Ukrainian women. Yep.
And others, we want to kill you if we can. Then they sent
the guy was an absolute piece of garbage. Absolute piece of trash.
U.S. Ukrainian trained CIA operative to Mar-a-Lago to try to kill President Trump.
Oh, right.
These people are sick and they're evil.
You are sick, man. With all this garbage that you constantly promote, are you kidding me?
Yes.
And they're being exposed right now.
You expose yourself all the time. Man, we have done so many reaction videos to this guy. Never forget that before he was killed in Ukraine, American journalist Gonzalo Lira, sounds very American by the way, laid out exactly how Zelensky was manufactured and funded by Israeli Jewish billionaire Kolomoisky. Now, we'll get into Kolomoisky again later on, but let's see here.
You see, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, well, the cokehead of Kiev, because he is a cokehead, the cokehead...
Is he? Any evidence for this?
Head of Kiev is actually a manufactured political figure. He was manufactured by a Ukrainian Israeli Cypriot oligarch called Igor Kolomoisky.
Interesting that he also mentions the Cyprus thing, because he actually got his Cyprus or Cypriot passport revoked. And his Ukrainian one too, actually.
Now, Igor Kolomoisky was the man who owns 1+1 Media here in Ukraine. And 1+1 Media is the company that financed and produced the TV show Servant of the People. And Servant of the People hired Zelensky, a well-known actor in Ukraine, an actor with zero political experience or even any political interest. Well, they hired him.
That's true. Now again, I'm not a fan of Zelensky either. But again, it is a mistake to conflate Zelensky with the Ukrainian people. There's a big difference there. Now, speaking of Kolomoisky, Zelensky actually stripped 3 Jewish oligarchs of citizenship. All hold Israeli passports. Number 1, Igor Kolomoisky. There's also Korban and Vadim Rabinovich. Now here is of course JF Geriepi, who said, I was the last person Gonzalo Lira told before he got arrested and died at the hands of the Ukrainian war regime. He sent me a direct message and we went into a Zoom call. He was in a small room, extremely nervous, smoking one cigarette after the other, yeah. And you know how he died? Pneumonia. Now where do you think that came from? I had never seen so directly the mental effect that physical torture and extortion can do to a man. You know, if you really know who this guy is, I don't think he got tortured, I don't think he was killed, but even if they did, I couldn't care less, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
No. His cause of death was reported to be pneumonia. Gonzalo Lira himself admitted having pneumonia in a letter. Now, Lira Sr. said his son was a victim of torture and blamed Zelensky and Joe Biden for causing his son's death. Now, of course, Russian officials Maria Zakharova and Sergei Lavrov echoed this claim. Yeah, you don't say. I mean, that works in their favor, doesn't it? As did some Western political figures. Western, huh? You mean infiltrators in the West? Kathy Young of The Bulwark criticized anti-Ukraine commentators for spreading misinformation about Lira and exploiting his death, and also issued a call for transparency. Here's an inside scoop on what really killed Gonzalo Lira. Spoiler, it was being fat and retarded. Here, just got these today, a whole carton of 5 of them actually. I had never seen a pack with 40 cigarettes before, and it was cheaper than the regular 20 cigarette packs. Only 750 hryvnia for 5 of these, as opposed to the 850 for the cartons of the other ones. So he was a major chain smoker who died of pneumonia. I mean, it's not the first time you hear about this. And here's a little bit more of a look into this guy by Johnny Gatt. No over 12 or with an IQ over 90 believes Russia is invading Ukraine, he said.
No one over the age of 12 or with an IQ over 90 seriously believes that the Russians are going to invade anytime soon.
And then they did. And this was a very common claim, by the way, by this entire network. Even people like Eva Vlaardingenbroek were saying this right before the war started. Benny Johnson, for example, he did the same thing.
Vladimir Putin, he is, for all intents and purposes, what you would call an ethnic nationalist. But he's not an imperialist.
And cultural diversity is the pride of our society, the strength and priority of our states.
The Kremlin propagandists and alt media will lie as badly as CNN does at times. Gonzalo Lira will tell you the complete opposite of the truth and frame Putin as an ethno-nationalist in order to help Russia win the support of right-wing men in Western countries.
And man, is it working.
When Western politicians say that diversity is strength, the dissident right will call them treasonous. Meanwhile, they celebrate Putin, who shares that same view, and he has said it multiple times. In May, he dismissed Russia's adversaries as
people with neo-colonial thinking, dimwits, in fact, who do not understand that this diversity makes us stronger.
He also said that Russia's ethnic and cultural diversity is an all-conquering force. Back in 2021, he said that Russia is as much of a melting pot as the US is.
Melting pot, huh? He also said that people who say Russia is for Russians, they are caveman nationalists, he said. Here's another one of these guys, Morgoth's review with this whataboutism here. Russians can be jailed for objecting to their country invading another. Brits are jailed for objecting to their country being invaded at the behest of their rulers. Same in Russia, by the way. Here, Russia imprisoned over 8,000 Russian ethno-nationalists since 2012, torturing and murdering the leaders. Ma suicides, ma gang fights. Yeah. Strange how Morgoth never mentions this. Well, that goes for a lot of these people. Here's more. Last week we also covered Jack Posobiec a little bit. Trump calls for Ukraine to hold presidential elections as part of the peace deal. Says Zelensky is deeply unpopular after savage war. Right. No surprise at all. Didn't he ban opposition parties and suspend elections? Are we really supposed to believe this is some democracy? So here again someone says he banned the Communist Party. I'm really starting to think MAGA is a Maoist movement. I mean, it's every time, isn't it? It's the same with the church. They always say, oh yeah, Zelensky banned the church and imprisons priests. No, he didn't ban the church. He banned a very particular one that is very obviously tied with the FSB. And yes, he has thrown, or at least Ukraine has thrown some priests that were aligned with the FSB in prison. I would have done the same thing. And the leader of the MAGA movement actually does the commie Lenin fist often. Yes, he does. Just like Julian Assange. When Tucker Carlson and the other right-wing shills like Nick Fuentes go on about Ukraine banning parties, here's one they banned, For Life, started by Rabinovich, who got kicked out as well, just like Kolomoisky, and Putin's pal Medvedchuk. Ukraine also banned communist parties. And Kolomoisky, that's another thing, he actually switched to pro-Russia in 2019. Yes, he did. Here he is. Ukraine should give up on the West and go back into Russia's fold, influential Ukrainian billionaire Igor Kolomoisky said in an interview with the New York Times. And this is another very common talking point, right? The Ukrainian meat grinder. 600,000 dead. That's crazy. As if the Ukraine is throwing their soldiers in a meat grinder, right? Which they caused, of course. So this guy says these pigs will blame anyone for the war in Ukraine except the bald tyrannical gangster who actually started the war. Yeah. You know why?
Sure seems that way.
It's very simple why this is. I mean, people are propagandized all over the place. And it's really exhausting, you know, to fight on this side of the information war when pretty much everyone is against you. It's like, it's really incredible. These degenerates will cheer on innocent people having their nation raped and plundered because they're still bitter about 1989. No class and no conscience. And Elon Musk repeats this thing as well. Every bleeding heart liberal I talk to about the Russia-Ukraine war wants to keep feeding bodies into the meat grinder forever. They have no plan for success. So Lost Intel says no plans for success. How about winning the war? Yeah, just like we said in the beginning. It's becoming progressively dumber. What is happening here? That is a good question. Yeah, JD Vance says the same thing, that Ukrainians have no path for victory. So this guy says if Afghans could defeat the Soviets, which they certainly did, I'm pretty sure Ukraine can defeat Russia. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so too.
I think they can too.
Oh yes. So Elon Musk actually said at some point, hold strong Ukraine. So someone says, what happened to him in the last 3 years? He says Russia went too far 3 years ago. Now the Ukrainian government has gone too far. So really what this means is, because they keep fighting and not surrender, they're going too far, even though he does admit that Russia used to go too far by starting the war, but for whatever reason, Ukraine is now at fault for fighting back against a war that he admits Russia started. This is beyond ridiculous, man. Can people not see this? Endless death in trenches is wrong, and anyone who continues to push that lacks both empathy and a brain. And One to Order says as well, we said earlier, if Russia were to fully conquer Ukraine, we will be sending our sons to defend Europe later. If you think aid to Ukraine is costly, we have seen nothing yet. And JFK warned about this as well.
American military might, should not, and need not stand alone against the ambitions of international communism. Our security and strength in the last analysis directly depend on the security and strength of others, and that is why our military and economic assistance plays such a key role in enabling those who live on the periphery of the communist world to maintain their independence of choice.
On the periphery of the communist world. Well, if that's not Ukraine, then I don't know what is.
Our assistance to these nations can be painful, risky, and costly, as is true in Southeast Asia today. But we dare not weary of the task, for our assistance makes possible the stationing of 3 to 5 million Allied troops along the communist frontier at 1/10 the cost of maintaining a comparable number of American soldiers. A successful communist breakthrough in these areas, necessitating direct United States intervention, would cost us several times as much as our entire foreign aid program, and might cost us heavily in American lives as well.
After American aid to Vietnam ended, they fell to the communists.
Yes, we've chosen to leave, but we've chosen to leave because it's no longer defendable with the resources that we have chosen to commit.
Then, like a domino, Cambodia followed suit. 2.5 million men, women, and children murdered by the Maoist communist regime.
Yeah, so what's next in Europe, huh?
Here's the thing. The reason why America has lost these wars is because they were neutered from the beginning.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Rules of engagement have kept U.S. troops from getting the job done.
Yep, absolutely. That is exactly right.
It was like that in Afghanistan as well.
Yep, exactly. And it's like you said, right? Like a domino. That's exactly what's going to happen in Europe. Like, we keep saying this over and over again, but that is why this is so dangerous. If Ukraine falls, then the Baltics will fall, or, Poland, or Moldova, Romania, whatever. Whatever they choose, or Georgia even. Whatever they choose is going to be their next target. And it's going to keep going, because they are going to keep growing stronger while we're going to keep growing weaker.
Likewise, if we do not honor our word and aid to Ukraine ends, there will be another domino to fall. The Middle Eastern front will widen while armies of foreigners pouring over our border. Europe will be next, and America will be obligated to send her sons and daughters for their defense.
I mean, we just have to deal with the reality. We as a people, as a Western alliance, are heavily under attack. And we have been for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy says as well, we go 38 trillion in debt spending money on God knows what, but then as soon as we find a good cause that's actually a clear strategic benefit to America, with a lot of bang for our buck, it becomes a problem to spend money. I don't buy it. This is malicious foreign subversion. Yeah, I agree. Wow, look at this name. Dugina's Roasted Pussy. Jeez. That's brutal. Tucker Carlson, as a Jewish lawyer guy, explained how Ukrainians persecute Christians and control the media. How do ziggers manage to swallow this down, right? This is exactly what we talked about earlier.
They've committed a lot of violence. A lot of people have been killed. Non-combatants have been killed by the Zelensky government.
Beaten our priests, beaten our parishioners.
You mean FSB agents? I mean, by all means, beat them up. They're your enemy. I mean, what are you going to do?
It's all on video. If you go to SaveTheUOC.com, you will see the videos of our parishioners being beaten. These are the elderly parents of people at the front fighting for the liberation and protection of Ukraine.
Oh.
Being beaten.
Liberation, huh? They love to use this word.
Very often by
Just like how the EFF liberated themselves from the oppressive apartheid regime with weapons from Russia, right?
Right.
SBU, that's their secret police, wearing death masks with Nazi insignias on their arm. So the fact that he's destroyed civil society, he's destroyed a free media, he jails or sanctions or charges with treason his opponents. We're supposed to ignore all of that, because if we...
What's wrong with that? If someone is a traitor, then you charge him with treason. If someone works for the enemy, what are you going to do? You're just going to keep working with him? What is wrong with you?
Mention it, or if I stand on a soapbox to scream that he's jailing and torturing priests, we are...
Yeah, priests who are working with the FSB. Not just normal priests, no. There's still plenty of Orthodox churches in Ukraine that are fully operational. Ukrainians go to church way more often than Russians do on average. And yet you see all these, Christians like Candace Owens talking about, as a Christian, I just cannot support Zelensky, because or Ukraine, because they throw priests in jail and they banned the Orthodox Church and stuff. Complete nonsense. But you do support the Russians, even though they hardly even go to church. Like, from your Christian perspective, that doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Somehow disentitled to speak.
The banning of an entire religion, that's completely false, during wartime represents among the worst human rights crimes. Give me a break, man.
Yeah, give me a break.
Yeah. And here again, I want Europe to go to war against Russia. You can't talk to Putin without my permission. And look at this. Of course, they are depicting Ukraine as the unreasonable one for not wanting to be occupied by a fascist regime. Just call it communist, man. What is it always with the fascist? Being unreasonable according to anti-Ukraine people, not wanting to concede territory with no proper security guarantees, not wanting to repeat the same treaties with a regime who has broken every treaty with you, wanting to be involved in negotiations of your own country. Yep. So here's another one of these popular talking points, right? What happens to Europe when Trump realizes that Russia more aligns with American traditional family values than any nation in Europe, says Scott Ritter. So readers added context. Scott Ritter is a convicted pedophile and thus shouldn't talk about traditional family values. I love how every time he says anything, people hold this against him. It's hilarious.
Twice convicted.
Yep, twice convicted. Oh, man. So yeah, this guy again says, it's pretty clear that pretty much all the I can't believe the West didn't help Rhodesia people would have been like, not 1 cent to Rhodesia, F those dumb African Nazis. I ain't dying for effing Rhodesia if they were around back then. Yep, you guys would have been propagandized into doing exactly this, just like you're doing now with Ukraine. Absolutely. Here, quick reminder, the dissident right have spent the last 3 years shitting all over Ukrainians and making propaganda for multiculti Russia and its denazification invasion. Never let these wankers forget this either. I mean, here are young Ukrainians lining up along a street in Lviv to kneel in front of a fallen Ukrainian soldier being taken back home from the front lines for his funeral.
They do this all the time.
Yeah, they do.
It's incredible.
It is. I mean, it shows how much they love their people and they really respect the people who are actually on the front lines, you know, being thrown in a meat grinder, right? Actually trying
look
to...
at all those Nazis.
Yeah, look at all these Nazis, man. I mean, the Kremlin wants all of these kids dead, but it's the Ukrainians that are fighting back against that, who are the real perpetrators of this war, of course. Yep, it is a very brutal thing. So now Putin says, Russia and the United States officially agreed to restore diplomatic relations. Wow, who could have seen that coming, huh? And of course, Alex Jones again, breaking. Vladimir Putin excited about real negotiations for peace. Summit with President Trump in Saudi Arabia.
Мне сказали, наши участники, это совсем с американской стороны были совсем другие люди, которые были открыты для переговорного процесса.
Vladimir Putin just praised President Trump's negotiation team. And not because they're soft, not because they're Russian agents, but because they recognize Russia has won the 3-year war. It's the anniversary on Monday of the 3 years. And it's on record.
Are you celebrating it, Alex? Are you going to have a little Putin poster with a candle and a piece of pie? And I'm sure you will.
George Soros, Victoria Nuland.
Oh, man. No way that he brings that up again. What a clown. Victoria Nuland, George Soros, every single time.
Hell, the deputy head of the EU unelected commission bragged that they started the war and they're going to, quote, break up Russia. She said that 2 weeks ago. This is crazy town. Over 80% of Americans and Europeans are against this war.
Yeah, are they really? Are they against the war in what sense? I'm pretty sure 80% of Europeans want Russia to get the hell out of Europe.
It's insane. It's on Russia.
They're not opposing Ukrainians fighting back.
His doorstep. Biden's been, before he got kicked out, bombing Russia inside the country. Can you imagine America putting up with that? We are on the verge of nuclear war. And so now Putin came out and
oh, this again. We're on the verge of World War III, guys.
Said, look, the atmosphere was...
I think Ukraine should take the war into Russia.
Yeah, I think so too. They should just march into Moscow and just get it over with.
Was very friendly in his talks with President Trump. The American side was completely different people who were open to negotiation process without any bias. He talked about his discussion with President Trump on the phone.
There should be bias. The bias should be legitimately America first, which also means protecting your allies.
And that, according to my sources, in Russia and here in the United States, the State Department here and connected to the Russians in Europe, Trump is set, it may change, to fly to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia Sunday night and begin a 3-day meeting with Vladimir Putin.
Did he dye his beard? I think he did. Here again, Putin praises Trump, tells him to continue on this path. Putin says Trump must go harder on Europe and Ukraine. Of course, must move faster. He promised 24 hours. Yeah, he did. Those have definitely passed. Won't meet with Trump until Trump is ready for serious results. The cause of the war is NATO, of course. So here's JD Vance. All right, Mr. Putin. Best I can do is give you everything you want and let you do whatever you want. Excellent deal, guys. So now Putin, not seeking real peace deal, wants full control of Ukraine. You don't say. So Ukrainian analyst says, thank you, Intel. Absolutely vital, top secret info. Spy movie material. Yeah. What's next? Ukraine didn't bomb Donbass for 8 years? Russians didn't actually invade to denazify Ukraine? Maidan revolution didn't happen because of Nuland's cookies? Well, according to Alex Jones, it did. How many more revelations? Yeah. An alliance between Russia and America to destroy Europe, you say? So here the transatlantic alliance is over and there is now an alliance between the Russian and American presidents to destroy Europe. So now Trump is blocking American companies from selling weapons to Ukraine. Trump is Putin's bitch, he says. Now, also for the first time in 3 years, the US opposed calling Russia an aggressor in the G7 statement for the 11th anniversary of war and the 3rd anniversary of the full-scale invasion against Ukraine. So now Marco Rubio is now openly advocating for a US-Russia partnership.
Ultimately, the Russian side will be indispensable to this effort, and so that process will begin. And then the third is, together with those other two, is beginning to engage in identifying the extraordinary opportunities that exist should this conflict come to an acceptable end, the credible opportunities
Acceptable end, huh?
that exist partner with the Russians geopolitically on issues of common interest and frankly economically on issues that hopefully will be good for the world and will also improve our relations in the long term.
Again, what you guys should be doing is what Trump said before. You should hit him in the middle of freaking Moscow. That's what you guys should be doing. So this guy says, I've been continuously warning that Trump is a traitor connected to Putin and Russia through Chabad Lubavitch. Yep. I single-handedly fought the entire alt media to expose Trump's treachery while they lied claiming it was a Russia hoax. They're fucking traitors too, yep. Yes, they are. And here is Roger Wicker.
Do you think that Putin can be trusted in these negotiations?
No. Putin is a war criminal and should be in jail for the rest of his life, if not executed.
Do you think that Putin can...
I couldn't agree more. Well, this is also the guy who said, who we covered last week, who said that Vladimir Putin is trying to rebuild the Soviet Union, right? So, good stuff. So now Musk was also praising Lavrov, actually. He said, this is what competent leadership looks like. Trump appointee Musk praising Russia, reposted by Dugan. Yeah, I mean, Dugan reposts Musk all the time. He says, what Russia collusion?
Right.
And here is Lavrov, actually. He says, we don't agree to stop attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure because we never attacked it. What a joke, man. So here this guy says, Russians gloated endlessly about how they were attacking energy infrastructure. It's really something else how they lie like this. Yes, it is. They're like gypsies, they're so shameless. Yeah. So not long after the negotiations, there was a massive Russian attack on Odysee underway, just moments after Trump told reporters he believes Russia is sincere in his desire to end the war. Odysee has always been a target for Putin. He wants to cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea and then absorb Ukraine into Greater Russia. He has never accepted the independence or separate identity for Ukraine. No, he definitely has not. Very nice.
So basically, as Dugan stated, annexing Ukraine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Here, Russia launches one of the largest drone swarm attacks of this war. More than 150 suicide drones have been launched at Ukraine. Odysee is the most targeted city. This video was captured by teenage girls who were nearly hit by a drone while in the car. Man, brutal stuff, man. So now Elon Musk is copying Milai here with the chainsaw. Man, this guy says, holy shit, you want to see the most awkward, cringy, horrible idea ever? Javier Milei just pump and dumped his country on a shitcoin twice in a day. Yeah, he did, just like Trump did, by the way. And they let him on stage. Elon Musk getting way too into the bit, which isn't landing in part because I'm sure everyone in the room is thinking, what the fuck is Javier Milei doing in public? Bro should be impeached.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw.
Oh my God.
What is this war crime, man? Every time he does this, it's just horrible.
It is.
And now, of course, he's once again promoting Georgescu. Colin Georgescu announces that on his first day as president, he will ban the entire Soros network in Romania. I'm getting so sick of this. Soros. Ah. And of course, this was posted by Inevitable West, who is this Indian, right? Defender of Western values and culture. How about you just go back to India, man? And Elon Musk here is once again promoting this guy. I mean, he has over 200,000 followers. This supposed pro-Western account run by an Indian. But then he says now, account run from England. Yeah, but you're still an Indian. Here he says, Romania deserves its own sovereignty. Yeah, which is exactly why they don't want this guy in power who is clearly working with foreign intelligence. And Romanians, they know this. Here, how did an Indian get such a slop "the West has fallen" account to 200k followers in under 6 months? Can anyone do this, or have the Indians perfected min-maxing? Here, this guy says, astroturfed by Musk and other large dissident accounts. Yep. Someone says the old Finkelstein trope about Soros. Yep, that's exactly it. Every time. Soros, Soros, Soros. So Jeremy Roth-Kushel here says, why do paid Russian assets get so much access and FaceTime with the Trump regime? Must not mean anything. So here's Benny Johnson, who is indeed interviewing all these people like J.D. Vance and Pam Bondi.
So you said yesterday, made a lot of news, bad-mouthing Trump, not a good idea for Zelensky. Of course
yeah, exactly. He says, as bad as Soros is, this is all theater. Yep. Yeah, again, like, I'm certainly no fan of Soros, but it's very clear they are using him as a scapegoat. I always call him the Soviet scapegoat. And he's clearly working with them. I mean, he's doing the exact same things as they're doing, right? Destabilizing the West. They both have the same goal. They're just using him like, hey, if you look at what Soros is doing, we oppose Soros, right? Therefore, we are your friends. I mean, it's really pathetic that people fall for this. Yeah. Even though George Birnbaum, who was a Finkelstein protege, actually admitted that they used him as a fall guy to get Orban, for example, elected. So
what's the thought process here?
Well, look, I mean, President Zelensky, his country wouldn't exist without the generosity of the United States of America. So say thank you. And if you disagree with the president, pick up the phone and call him or call one.
Here it is again, the generosity. I mean, you guys really don't understand. I mean, you do, but, you know, you're obfuscating this deliberately. The importance of having allies. And J.D. Vance was also once again involved with, in Germany, trying to get the AfD elected, right? So this guy says, why suddenly this soft spot in your heart for Germany, JD? It's a pretty odd concern for an American leader to be so invested in German internal affairs. Are you a Berliner? It's a good question. Just like Elon Musk is doing, of course, and now Charlie Kirk as well. I mean, this guy, man, seriously, he's just parroting everything that Elon Musk and Trump are doing in the hopes that Elon Musk will retweet him, of course, and get tons of new followers. And
right.
Here, all Germans should vote AfD in the upcoming election. This is for the survival of Germany. Close your borders and protect your culture. Oh yeah, Elise Weidel is definitely protecting German culture by marrying a Sri Lankan woman. This is fine. Trust the plan. Charlie Kirk is one of the good guys now, guys. He just has a soft spot in his heart for Germany. Completely invested in what is good for the German people, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm actually a German neighbor, and I'm telling you, AfD is not going to save your country, guys. Elise Weidel is very much involved with China, with Russia, promotes the multipolar world order, is a lesbian, married to a Sri Lankan. She's a so-called former leftist. I mean, really.
The quintessential German, huh?
Yeah. Like we said last week, where are the proud, heterosexual German men who actually want to keep all the Soviet influence out of Germany, who actually want to make Germany great again, and by extension, make Europe great again? That's what we need.
Yep.
And here, of course, Full Tide has really been doing the same thing lately, now promoting this Naomi site. You know, this may be a bit of a dark thought here, but Elon Musk really likes to promote a lot of the ladies, and for whatever reason, some of them end up pregnant by him. Is that his plan with Naomi Seif? I mean, you never know. So here she's again promoting Elise Weidel. Here, just after J.D. Vance rejected Olaf Scholz. Yeah, like, again, Olaf Scholz is a complete idiot. But it doesn't mean that AfD is going to save Germany. Because he won't be Chancellor long, he meets Alice Weidel. Does that mean he sees the potential of a future AfD Chancellor? So Thultide is promoting this. So this guy says, I'm unfollowing Thultide. JD married to an Indian, Weidel to a Sri Lankan. 0 Islamic terror attacks in Germany. until communist FDJ Merkel allowed in 1 million plus after Russian-backed Syriza in Greece let them in 2015 while she pushed for Russian Nord Stream 2. Russia killing whites in Ukraine and aiding African Asian invaders into Europe in Finland, Poland and Baltics. That's exactly right, man. Here is Dugan, of course. There are so many common points between AFD and the left. The Communist Party is criticizing the center because the center is the problem. But yeah, it's true. I mean, Alexander Dugan has been promoting the AFD non-stop. Here, AFD leader Elise Weidel had monthly secret meetings with the former Chinese ambassador Wu Kang for years. For some reason, these meetings were not held at the Chinese embassy, but at her private residence. Very nice. And yes, she speaks Chinese. She had her PhD in China. Speaking of China, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says China supports the efforts of the US and Russia to end the conflict in Ukraine. You don't say. It's necessary to create a consensus to resolve this conflict and lay the foundations of peace.
Кризис в Украине длится уже 3 года. Наступил момент перехода к переговорам.
Yes, and your allies started it, didn't they?
С начала этого кризиса Китай всегда выступал за политическое решение этого вопроса. Китай поддерживает все усилия, ведущие к...
Man, the Chinese, they really play all of this so clever because militarily they stay out of everything, but meantime they are manipulating everyone on so many levels. Like, the Chinese are really dangerous people. But of course, no one takes it seriously thanks to Alex Jones with his Chi-Com's own Hollywood and all that garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't believe for a second that they were looking for some sort of political solution.
No. Of course they want Russia to take Ukraine. I mean, Russia has always been their ally since the CCP was created. So the chief architect was Grigory Voitinsky.
Необходимо создать консенсус для решения этого конфликта, заложить основы мира.
Foundations of peace.